Okay, so that so the video cut off because it was such a long video. But to me, also going back to this movie and back to WAP and why I put it together is because there's a dance called the WAP, and I've looked at TikTok and I've seen a lot of women do it, and I like it. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't, but in this movie, these kids are doing the same exact thing. The exact same move. You know, the one where you're pounding the ground and you're, doing whatever. They're doing the exact same thing, and to me, it's just not appropriate. Excuse me. So I go back to that there should be some sort of barrier and protection. And I think that when we don't hold certain people accountable, and that we don't tell them, hey, and this is not just the famous people. I bring up Brooke Shields and Kim Kardashian and Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. Not only do they have a responsibility, but I think grown women have a responsibility, and grown men have a responsibility, because when women wear, and people say, how should a man tell a woman what to wear? Okay, I'll give you that. But can you explain to the young kid, the young girl, and the young boy that's seeing that? Can you explain to them when a woman's walking around and you can see her cheeks, and an 8-year-old girl sees that? I'm just saying. What do you think that girl is thinking? Or an 8-year-old boy sees that? Let's say nobody else is around. She's just walking to her car, super short shorts, and you have an 8-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl, and they see that. Or, they go on to even the censored version of WAP, and they see the video, or they just see certain things. It reinforces it. It may not be that Cardi B is doing a dance and nobody's doing a dance, but just in terms of imagery, how a person dresses, it reinforces things. To me, it reinforces. People will say no, but how can it not? Kids are impressionable. Like, I can say to Noelle, like, we could be talking about something, and I'm like, that's silly. I'm like, that's silly. And you'll hear Sweet saying that's silly. Or there could be a commercial on, especially the one with the Allstate insurance guy, and she'll repeat stuff right as it's happening. Or the one where the dude's brushing his teeth and DJ Khaled saying, do another one. That's Sweets' favorite. They all say, and another one, and another one. So if you're telling me that kids are not impressionable, you're lying to yourself. If you're telling me that kids that look at women in super, super tight stuff and super short stuff does not make an impression, you're kidding yourself. And I agree, it is on the parents to definitely step in and whatnot. But also, I think that people should get over themselves and not be so selfish, and realize that you're basically having, and go back to the parents who allow their kids to listen to WAP blasting out in the backyard. People can view you as trash. Now, people will say, don't judge me, or body positivity. Okay, that's fine. But when it comes to kids, it's a different story. And if you basically present yourself out in public and kids can see it, to me, I'm going to view you as trash. Now, it'd be different if you're going to a nightclub at night. That's different. Or you're going someplace and, it's the college campus and there's not going to be kids and stuff like that. That's different. But when you're every day walking around, going to the mall, to me, it's just trash. Just like letting a kid listen to WAP out loud or anything else, not just WAP. I'm not trying to pick on one. To me, that's trash. I'm not saying Megan Thee Stallion is trash. I'm not saying Cardi B is trash. I'm not saying Kim Kardashian necessarily is trash. I'm saying that the people who allow their kids to watch it uncensored, I disagree with that. And adults who basically don't think about what it is that they're wearing. I remember. See, I have a little tank top on. I remember back in the day, the tank tops women used to wear used to come like all the way down to like here. I mean, I remember that. And you can see, I mean, it looked like, I watch a lot of period movies, period pieces. And, back in the day, and the women used to wear the dresses where the bosom was pushed all up and everything was all out. I mean, it was almost similar. Like, boom, there they were. And I remember I was like, I don't know, 13, 14. It's like, goodness gracious. But that's something you saw. I mean, it was common. It was very common. And there was people who, it didn't matter if what, they were just out there. Now, some people will say they have the right to show that, and what's wrong with that? Okay. All right. But on the same token, it just goes back to other things, right? And I'm using me as an example. It goes back to other things because I talk about the fact that, I was the one that was tall enough to reach stuff in the store, the magazines. And all these other kids at school, they talked about boobs. You start to view people as parts, and it starts early because there's so much stuff out there. Now, should I be going up there pulling magazines off it? No, shouldn't. Did the store and the magazine company do their best to try to protect things? Yeah. Maybe they could have done more. I don't know. But that's not the point. The point is there's dots that are connected. I just see everything is linking. And then whenever you are out in public, what are you looking for? Just like in the movie, the girl starts, because they were talking about how she has no butt. And these other little girls and cuties are showing themselves off and short shorts and everything. Well, then this little girl is looking at, because her family's very religious. After the religious ceremony's over, this little girl is looking at all these other women's butts, looking at them and comparing. That's true, because what did I do? After looking at dirty magazines out in public, boom, you would just see different things. Now, these are people aren't necessarily, I'm not saying those women should be ashamed or that those women should cover up or any of that. I'm just saying it connects dots. Kids put two and two together. And to me, none of it, in my opinion, is appropriate. So part 2 is going to pretty much end because that was part 1. It was so long. I kept talking and kept talking. I think the dance moves are incorrect or just nasty in this movie, but I've seen them years ago, decades ago, and I still see it today. It still goes on. You can find videos of stuff like this. It's out there. Kids can find it. Adults find it. This is fodder for people who are disgusting. Now, most people will look at this movie and be like, ew. Or there may be some people who will say, well, whatever. And they may not have some sort of ill intent. But there is a segment of people who have a very ill and disgusting intent. And this provides fodder for them, which to me is gross. Just like listening, and some of these sick people, if a kid is listening to WAP and singing all the lyrics, that's fodder for some of these disgusting people too. We can't just sit here and think it's a physical thing and that's it. There's some that like visual and audio. It may not be the same when a 30-year-old woman's singing WAP. They're like, whatever. But for a kid to sing it, they might like that. It may not mean nothing to them for a 30-year-old to dress the way that some of these girls are dressing and dance the way that they're dressing. They don't care. But for the kids to do it, that means something to them. It may not mean anything to some of those sick people whenever a woman wears something super tight or super short or whatever, or a thong on the beach, but it does whenever there's someone who's a minor. Do you get what I'm saying? That it's in society, there's so many different things. There are little kids who are impressionable. There are sickos out here. There are folks who really and truly are oblivious to certain things. There are people who are part of the problem. There are other normal people who, hot women walking down the street wearing something, they're like, yeah, I fall into that category. We're all guilty. We're all guilty. But I think that to some degree, we hold responsibility when it comes to our kids and what kids are allowed to see, what they're allowed to do, what they're allowed to watch. We have to be very careful with that because it comes with bad consequences, in my opinion. It just comes with bad consequences. And it leads to people who are really and truly out there to do harm. There are people who will watch this Cuties and it just amps them up. And that's sad. That's what I worry about. I worry about women too, don't get me wrong. But that's a little different. I worry a lot about kids who really and truly don't know nothing. And they may think certain things are normal. And then you have someone who's an opportunist waiting to do whatever. I have an issue with that. I just do. To me, I have a very soft heart for people who are defenseless, right? Old people, young kids, kids in general. I have a big heart for that. Like, to me, it's just, you leave that alone, in my opinion. I don't think that you're a special type of coward whenever you attack old people and kids. I'm sorry. And when you don't set some sort of a standard, it's just, I can't. So is the movie controversial? Yeah, it is. But there are a lot of other things in society that give this permission. When you look at a Supreme Court decision, a New York Supreme Court decision that basically said it's okay, then this movie is going to be allowed to do whatever. Because they're going to say it is an artistic expression and that the movie was talking about how this shouldn't be the case. And even though we may not like it, we may want to protest Netflix, some people may, it's not going to really do anything because it's protected. It's protected. Because we've set a precedent years ago. That's why I brought up the stuff from back in the 70s and even before that. There's so many different things that has happened and we allowed those things to happen. And this is the reason why I say that we shouldn't just be passive about things that may not affect us today, but it affects another group of people currently. Because eventually it's going to affect all of us. And this is a shining example of that. There were people who didn't care about, black kids doing bounce and twerking and showing everything because it didn't really affect them. But now, everybody's doing that in every community. There are people who didn't care about Brooke Shields doing whatever, like whatever. My kids aren't going to see that movie, but then it later on allows for movies like this to get the credence that it does because those movies were allowed to be produced and aired and defended, and now it's like, well, and today you have people who defend this still. So no, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. I don't. I think it sends the wrong message, but there's a lot of things that send the wrong message. Maybe I'm not making sense. And sometimes when I do videos, I'm thinking I don't make sense. I think I sometimes wonder, am I really conveying a message that I'm trying to get out there? And you may disagree with me, and that's okay. But to me, the movie was not as bad as what I thought it was going to be, but it was bad enough. Especially the way the camera angles were and what they focused in on. To me, it was just over the top. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 and part 2 of this. Make sure that you join the Discord because we've had discussions about this and WAP and other things before. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Until next time, I will see you. Take care.